Morning, guys. Been a little while. Took a little hiatus and had to refresh mentally. It's good to decompress, you know. And every now and again, you just have to take a little break so you can study what's around you and look at reality. Facebook is ever changing and evolving. It's gotten to the point now where I can't hardly post anything, which is very, very interesting. But I wanted to talk to you guys about the significance of knowing who you are. I can't stress enough how important it is. And forgive me, there's a train in the background that runs every 5 to 10 minutes, and there ain't much I can do about that. But so we're going to hear the blissful sound of the horn this morning. Good morning. Good to see you guys. It's been a while. Like I said, I've been on a hiatus. Just kind of needed to mentally decompress with everything that's evolving around us, the situation. But it is good to see people not only becoming spiritually enlightened, but also starting to discover who they are, what the United States truly is, the difference between the United States of America and the United States, the difference between the ATF and the IRS, compared to, let's say, the FBI, NSA, CIA, things of that nature. The alphabet gangs, they're all private, for-profit corporations. They're not government. So I'm glad to see you guys waking up. But your true nemesis is yourself. And it took me a long time to figure out that I was my own worst enemy. My belligerence led to a lot of my failure about 10 years ago going into court cases. So when I started to realize that I was my own worst enemy, all of a sudden the veil was pierced. Clarity came to mind, and I was able to move pretty efficiently through a court system. Now, when we use logic, rationale, and common sense, it's amazing what you can get done in a court setting. I don't care if it's divorce court, child support, minor fender bender. Common sense 9 times out of 10 prevails. So if you don't allow it to get to the point where you're in a court setting, which is really just a show, ladies and gentlemen, court is held on the 4 corners of paper, okay? And you can hold court 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you can even compel these public officials to show up at buildings at 9:30 at night if you wish. Wouldn't recommend it, but there are times where if you have to be an asshole, 9:30 at night is when you'll show up, and if you don't, you'll default, and I'll issue my order and my judgment, and I will capitalize on it. And you can bet your sweet bottom dollar that I absolutely know how to execute the process to get paid. That's not an issue. So we have to remember that we have to forgive those who trespass against us, for they know not what they do. When I read that in the Bible, I didn't quite grasp why. And then it dawned on me. I have to forgive them for they know not what they do, because I don't know who I am. I haven't properly informed them who I am. I haven't set the boundaries for me, myself, and I. Okay? And if you don't set those boundaries and you don't put them on notice, then who are you to try and hold them liable for something they had no common knowledge of, right? I know what you're saying. Well, they took an oath of office, they did this, they did that. Yes, they're taking their income under false pretenses. 9 times out of 10, they're unjustly enriching themselves. They're not registered with the Foreign Registration Act of 1938. They can't produce their foreign registration certificate as they should. They don't have a delegation of authority to operate outside of Washington, D.C. All code enforcement agencies are, in fact, revenue-generating agencies for their principal, acting as trustees on behalf of their principal. And under Corpus Juris Secundum, let's see, I believe it's Corpus Juris Secundum, or excuse me, it's Am Jurisprudence. 63C, Am Jurisprudence 2D, all public officials are in fact trustees of we the people. Now, with that knowledge, if you know how to conduct yourself, you can fill the role of executor. You can command, compel performances, and they will respond. Or you can hold them liable for their dereliction of duty. Remember, There's a duty to respond. They are duty bound to do so. So this hypothesis of, oh, well, I'm not sure what that is. I really don't know my job. None of that shit flies with me. All right. But I also know what I can and can't do. All right. I can't cause harm to another living man or woman, irrespective of their career or profession. No matter how agitated I become with these people, violence is never the answer. Okay. So I've got a land patent class coming up. And everybody always wants to know, well, why would I give this guy 100 FRN notes, 100 credits on account, 100 permissible units? Why would I do such a thing? That answer lies within you. You have to figure out whether the juice is worth the squeeze. I know a lot of people have spoken very highly of me in my classes. And it's not all about me either. The interesting thing is my friends join in. And my friends are very, very brilliant, articulate people. And they chime in to provide guidance. Some of these people absolutely are on the private side. It's not hard for them to interact with people, but they also don't want their names out there. So with that said, the land patent, why is it important? How did it come about? Well, we've got over 180 years of case law supporting by the Supreme Court and international treaty that the land patent is in fact the highest title a man can hold. Now, as a man, I operate through title, right? So when we start to learn about titles and treaties and the protection that they afford, one of the cases I want you guys to go look up is Summa Corp versus the state of California. In that landmark case, if you will, the Supreme Court says we have ruled, and we have ruled again. And we will no longer rule on this issue. The highest title a man can have is a land patent. And to basically war against the land patent is to war against the Constitution for the United States of America. And any insurrection or seditious behavior towards someone who calls forward a land patent in their name is in fact an act of aggression against the United States of America. Now, what that does is force and compel the DOD, the Department of State, and the Provost Marshal in your state to take immediate and effective action to protect the Constitution for the United States of America, to protect the Constitution for the state that you're in, and to protect international treaties. It's amazing, folks. You want to talk about status correction. Landowners have diplomatic status. All your founding fathers were landowners, okay? That was why the Magna Carta was so important. You see, the king, he laid claim to a allodial title to the land. And because he had a allodial title to the land, if he didn't like you, if you weren't producing enough grain, if you weren't micromanaging the land efficient enough to justify you being on it, he could simply ask you to pick up your belongings and move. Back then, it wasn't very easy to move a whole house. So what do you think the people did when they fell out of the good graces of the king? They just uprooted and left, because the king was going to grant that land to somebody else who micromanaged it better, right? Or maybe you just fell out of good favor with the king and he decided, screw you, get off my land. This is the same thing the land patent affords you. It puts you in the position of the king or the queen. And what I mean by that is the lot, block, parcel ID number, zone improvement project number, and address are all irrelevant once you call forward a land patent in your name. Now, you will notice I'm not saying you're going to go out there and create a new land patent, because that is not, in fact, what you're doing. And anybody out there telling you that that's what you're doing is creating a land patent is egregiously making an error, okay? And it's a fatal error, because I just talked to somebody the other day who said, well, I applied for a land patent at the BLM. You can't apply for a land patent. Once that land patent is issued, it is issued, and it is out of the control of the United States of America, and it is out of control of the BLM. They do not have the grounds to reissue something that has already been issued, all right? And all the land has already, on Turtle Island, the United States of America, if you will, has already had a land patent issued, period. So you just have to go find that. And then you have to be able to prove chain of title and how you're an heir and assigned to the land patent and call it forward in your name. Now, there is a private administrative process that is included with the land patent class that shows you how to do such a thing. Now, the importance of having that land patent. One, the status correction. Phenomenal. You now have the full weight and force of the DOD behind you, which means that the Department of State will notify the DOD if you're under siege by a foreign entity unregistered using a fictitious name to do business on our soil, right? So, what's that prevent? It prevents people from coming onto your land without permission, which would be an easement granted by you, the king or the queen. All right, if they're going to go to foreclose on you and you have called forward a land patent in your name and you now compel and hold the highest title a man can have, now you have a little bit of room to negotiate, don't you? When they come to foreclose. Now, I'm not saying that you should abscond from your contracts that you enter into. For all men are responsible for knowing the contracts they enter into, and that's why ignorance of the law excuses no one. See, nobody ever completes that maximum. They always say, ignorance of the law excuses no one. And please go on. And they go, what do you mean? Well, you got to finish it out. For all men are responsible for knowing the contracts that they enter into. In the Bible, it even tells you that you can't serve two masters, but should you make an agreement, you must fulfill that obligation. Okay? It's about honor, dignity, respect. We learn from our mistakes. We learn not to contract back with the devil. We fulfill our obligation and we move forward in this life. That is how we do it. We cannot shirk our responsibilities. But by having a land patent, you have the ability to negotiate. You have the ability to tell them if they don't want to negotiate with you at that point to kick rocks. The other thing we're going to talk about in the land patent class is how there was never a loan issued. And if there were a loan issued, you were the issuer of the loan because you were the issuer of the credit. You were the issuer of the securities instrument. And you, as a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, this is not what I presuppose happened or occurs in the banking world. You've created a United States note with a blank banker's endorsement, and they've turned around and converted that note, destroyed in their language, which doesn't mean to put through a paper shredder or a waste paper basket or to set on fire. To destroy is to alter for a purpose otherwise than it was intended for. All right? And we allow them to do that without issuing our receipt for our security instrument and without properly qualifying our endorsement and notifying them where, when, how, and why they are to go get the funds. From the Treasury, perhaps? Just a thought. There is no loan. Every document that the bank will bring forward is, in fact, a forgery. And I can prove that very simply and very eloquently. The bank always comes forward with certified copies. I don't remember signing any document in black ink. Furthermore, my sign of nature left an impression on the paper. I feel no impression. Your Honor, this is a forgery, and I object to it being entered onto the record. I need the original note. Now, we look into equity when we start talking about original notes, okay? And the power that an original note compels and brings forward goes back clear back to Marbury versus Madison. All right? An original instrument holds all the value. A copy holds nothing. Nothing. Without the original instrument, you can prove no holder in due course. If they don't have the original instrument, ladies and gentlemen, what are you giving them anything for in the first place? Now, what's interesting about a loan is they call it, it's a repayment. It's a repayment, which means and implies for those that are cognitive that you've already paid. So why are you giving a repayment, another payment on top of the initial payment you already made, for which they monetized because of your blank banker's endorsement, giving them the opportunity to destroy that security for which you are a silent third-party beneficiary of, but unbeknownst to you, and not having the knowledge to sound off, like you got a pair, and claim what's rightfully yours, we lay silent. We acquiesce to everything that comes through in the mail. And then by the time you actually go to court where you think you're going to become Perry Mason overnight, you've already lost. Took me a long time to learn that. I go into court. I thought this was a fair, non-biased hearing here. Right? This doesn't seem very fair to me. Well, sir, this is how we do it, baby. And I thought to myself, you sons of bitches. And then I started to become cognitive of what they're actually doing. They're doing a private administrative process through the mail, holding court. I learned this watching the credit card companies default people. And then it dawned on me how they're doing it. A son of a bitch. We're never taught how to defend ourselves in high school, grade school, kindergarten, none of that stuff. We're never taught any of that. You're never taught the Bible in school anymore. You want to know why? It's too much power. They can't manipulate you once you grasp the concept of law. I'll tell you how powerful that Bible is. I had a judge tell me, Derek, you don't know the law. He said just like that. And without missing a beat, thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt honor thy mother and father. Thou shalt honor thy Lord above all else. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor nor his wife or earthly possessions. Thou shalt not bear false witness against his fellow brother and man. Which every last one of them was guilty in that room of doing just that. So let's talk about substantial rights violations. I have a right to bear arms, whether fully automatic, semi-automatic, it don't matter. I can have a rocket launcher if I want to. Provided what, ladies and gentlemen? Provided I cause no harm, injury, damage, or loss to anybody. I don't give a shit if the ATF comes to see me, because they're an unregistered foreign agent doing business under a fictitious, unregistered name, and I got them by the short and curlies. They can kiss my ass. That's how it goes. That's Americana, ladies and gentlemen. That's giving them the big high horse, telling them to bug off. Why? Because you don't have a delegation of authority. Who colored you with authority? Because the only one authorized to give you any color of authority over me is me. And I didn't do it. So where's that handwritten letter signed by the king, signed by me, saying that you have authority over me, that I'm not mentally competent enough to govern oneself? Do you have it? Can you present it? Then I suggest you sit the hell down before you become personally liable for your actions based upon the fact that you operate as a trustee for a principal and go through a risk management company. You're not even independently bonded, right? How many of you are actually following what I'm trying to show you? It's so powerful. They don't want you to have this knowledge. They don't want your kids to have this knowledge. It's the same reason you don't learn the Constitution. So let's go back to substantial rights real quick. I was talking about the Second Amendment, right? The Second Amendment isn't a right. It doesn't afford me any rights. It doesn't offer me any rights. I don't have any constitutional rights. I have God-given unalienable rights. And where my rights stop, your rights begin. It's that simple. If by some egregious error or mistake, I encroach upon your liberties, your freedoms, your rights, just make mention of it to me. I'll do whatever I can in my power, within my being, to make it correct with you. That's responsibility, accountability, integrity, and that's all it takes to make this world go round. Period. We have to recognize our faults, accept our faults, so we can correct our faults. Ladies and gentlemen, it's notice and opportunity, it's providing remedy, and it's learning from our errors and mistakes. Right? Public officials, they know what they're doing. These people are not stupid. They know what they're doing. But they've got plausible deniability. Why? Because we've allowed it. Because we haven't put them on notice. You can put them on notice with a simple paragraph. Maybe 2 paragraphs. I wouldn't go intrinsic and get 95 pages deep into a memoir book of everything. But let's just take, for example, another unalienable right that isn't written down. You have the right to urinate, defecate, masticate, masturbate. You have the right to do all these things, right? Where's it written? For all you people that run around going, I have constitutional rights, and I used to be one of them nummies. Oh, believe you me, I'm sure the judge was like, oh, God, that tyrant's in here again. Bellering and whining like a little baby for his bottle. Look at him go. kicking and screaming like a 3-year-old on the floor that wants a cookie, right? Let me articulate this to you. If you have to ask if you have a right to do something, the answer is no. You don't have that right. Because if you don't know your rights, you don't have them. So when you're in the court asking, well, don't I have a right to do this? No. Sit down and shut up. That's exactly what a judge is going to do to you. And through all my extensive studies, I don't blame them a damn bit for what they're doing. Not a bit. Because that's our lack of knowledge that has led us to where we're at today. It's our lack of knowledge. I go to court all the time and sit there and watch people go through the guillotine and get their nuts chopped off and walk out like neutered pups. And it's disgusting. It's really, 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 really sad to me. I just don't get it. I don't get it. So, land patent class. Why is it so important? Well, first of all, it's one of the easiest ways you can correct your status, okay? And give you a diplomatic status. As I said, that all the founding fathers had land, owned land. You can't be an elector without land, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you can't buy or sell, trade land. It has to be granted, okay? And the land patent that you call forward in your name is not a new land patent. It's something that derived from the 1800s that you can attach yourself to as an heir and a sign. And the more that I learn about the land patent, the more I just fill with energy knowing how simplistic it truly is. From there, learning about your substantial rights. It doesn't say that you have a right to an attorney or a lawyer. It says you have a right to counsel, and it's protected by the Constitution. How about this whole mask-wearing heebie-jeebie goobly-gock? Another invisible enemy, oh shit. Look out. Look out. First we had ISIS, then we had the Taliban, then we had COVID-19. You notice they never list themselves as terrorist organization that fund ISIS, Taliban, and are funding the COVID-19 deception. You never see the news media, which back in the early 80s was, there was a court case. A man went to sue the news media for blasphemy, for lying to the American people. And you know what that court rendering was? News media is a source of entertainment, which means they are not liable for the stories they tell you, and they absolutely do not have to be factual. So what are you watching the news for? It's a sitcom. And it should be called rightfully a sick-com, because that's exactly what it is. It's a sick way of controlling many of the people who are slumbering and asleep and don't want to use what's between their ears. They do not have to post anything that's factual. And in fact, when they blatantly create propaganda and lie to you to manipulate the masses, it's completely acceptable because they're a source of entertainment. You want the news? Go do your research. Find it for yourself. Go talk to the locals if you want the real stories, right? News media is a source of entertainment. They're absolutely not liable. Tomorrow they could say 10,000 U.S. troops slaughtered a village, and if it led to a civil war, they would say, well, you idiots, they're just a source of entertainment. I can't believe you gullible knuckleheads went out there and decided to create a civil war, which is what they're attempting to do, by the way. They're trying to get enough people into a mass hysteria they can justify putting United Nations troops on this soil. Make no mistake about it. When they started asking clear back in 2008, 2006, 2005, if soldiers would fire on the American people if asked to, that should have been a huge red flag for you guys. And many of you missed it. I read a story about the man in Alaska who, when they asked him to do it, they took a whole platoon of men up to Alaska. They gave him a questionnaire. The first question was, would you fire on American civilians if asked to? He picked up his service rifle. He walked to his commander's officer's desk. He set down his service rifle. He set down the piece of paper and said, I will not fill this out. Within minutes, the rest of his platoon stood up, did the same thing, walked back to the back of the classroom, and stood there. Guess who was reprimanded? The man that stood up with the most integrity and had the biggest set of balls and said, I will not fire on the American people. He got reprimanded. He got discharged, all right, for standing up, because him standing up created a situation of insurrection where the rest of the men couldn't just idly stand by and not follow suit. So he was the one reprimanded because he's got balls, because he's got integrity. And they don't like people like that in the military. They like order followers that will do just what the pedophiles want them to do. The suit and tie wearing pedophiles that all go to Epstein Island, that all go to other places in the world to rape little babies. Oh yeah, I'll call them out all day long. Sick, twisted fuckers. That's what they are. And they all need euthanized. Putting them in a cage isn't enough. There's a special little pill for those bastards about yay big with, I don't know, 128 grains. And that little pill fixes all the little pedophiles out there. Fixes them permanently. Ends that shit. There's another nice way of doing it. A saddle horn and a rope. And any good thick tree will do the trick. Guaranteed. It's enough of this shit. You know, they're talking about the pandemic. We got a pandemic of pedophiles. We got a pandemic of corruption within the government. All right? That isn't a government at all. They're masquerading as a government. Your sheriffs are not your sheriffs. They're trained by the state troopers who are trained by the FBI, who all attend FBI seminars. All right? These are no longer your sheriffs. They're not constitutional in any way, shape, or form. They're not independently bonded as they're supposed to be, and they damn sure aren't standing up the way they should be for the people that voted them in. It's time to protect each other. Time to watch out for one another. It's time to help everybody fight the bankers. Because the true war is the bankers. They're stealing everything at a phenomenal rate. If you don't think this pandemic is a show, a shit show, to hide the massive inflation or deflation of the United States Federal Reserve note, you're sadly mistaken. The bank's in trouble, ladies and gentlemen. Over 24 or 28 million people will be homeless if something isn't done. And the funny thing about it is, all those dwellings have been paid for 100 times over. The securities are still floating around from 1933 on some of these houses because our young generation hasn't learned how to get what's rightfully ours back when the alleged debt has been satisfied. But truth be told, you lent the bank something. They monetized it. As soon as they sold it to somebody else, that debt was considered paid. But to boot, to top it all off, you're the non-disclosed third-party beneficiary of the security instrument. You're the fucking owner of it. You created that credit on account that exists out there in la-la land in ones and zeros on the computer. It's yours, and you've abandoned it because you've never been taught how to claim it. It's that simple. So land patent class, August 22nd, 11 a.m., and you know me, it'll go for 12, 13, 14, 15 hours. The last class got cut a little short at 12 hours long, 10 and a half hours long, somewhere in there. My daughter showed up, and when she shows up, that's my whole world. So everything I'm doing pretty much stops at that point because she's everything to me. She's the reason I'm here. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here because I don't have a need to be in this sick, twisted world. I really don't. So anyway, join me for class August 22nd. There's a small nominal donation fee for my time. And as always, there'll be a bunch of brilliant minds on there that I work with day in and day out to help provide guidance and remedies on other situations, such as just a simple court case. A traffic ticket is so simple to defeat. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the right to face my accuser, not the witnesses, because the witnesses presuppose there's a fucking victim that can be identified. But how many of you allow the prosecutor to run through you alleging that, well, you'll get to see the witnesses. You'll get to cross-examine them. Fuck the witnesses. Fuck the witnesses. Give a shit about a witness. If there ain't no victim, what the hell's the witness? He's a liar. A paid professional liar on behalf of his principal to generate revenue. Period. Can be no other way. So thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Class is coming up August 22nd. Give it a little time because I was doing classes and I was announcing them within 3 days and people were getting upset. They didn't have enough time to micromanage their families and attend little Susie's ball game and still make the class. So August 22nd, 11 a.m. Central Time, 100 FRNs, 100 credits on account, 100 permissible units just for my time. I guarantee you, if you break it down, the 100 credits on account by the hour, It's less than minimum wage. It's less than minimum wage and well worth the investment. You get a copy of everything that we go over. You get a copy of the chat. You get a copy of the video. I believe I caught everybody last time. Last time was a chaotic nightmare, but I believe we got through it all. Look forward to seeing you guys. Land patent. It's where it's at, baby. It's where you have the power to negotiate. You become the king of your land. All right, right now, you just sit on an easement as a tenant, and a tenant can be told what to do, where to go, and when to leave. All right, that's how they create clout on title, clogging provisions through their mortgage credit swap agreements. All right. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to cover so much in this land patent class because it doesn't just cover land patent. I want to help expose to you mortgages, what they really are, how they really work, the nature of the belly of the beast, so you can navigate these waters and come out smelling like a rose. It's so simplistic, so simple. So thanks for joining me. Thank you for all your support. As always, all the praise and glory goes to God, who lives within each and every one of you. Everybody always points to the ceiling. I always do it too. But realistically, it's within you. It's written in your heart. God is ever living, always around, always alive, and all glory goes to him, the mighty creator. Because without the creator, all men wouldn't have been created equal. All right? All men are created equal. I don't give a shit what title you hide behind. You bleed red at the end of the day. You bleed red at the end of the day. And if we got to dip into equity, and equity doesn't solve it, well, let's revert back to common law, and we'll go out in the street and we'll duel. And the man who's right will walk away, and the man who isn't will be carried off. That's pretty simple. I've lost a lot of fights in my life, physical altercations where I was in the wrong, and morally, I couldn't justify beating somebody down mercifully. I was in the wrong, right? But I've never lost a fight where I was in the right, physical or otherwise. I've never lost a fight. Not when it comes to that. So there's a difference between justification, and I don't advocate violence. I know it sounds that way. I really don't advocate violence because truly the battle is right here. And everybody gets to go home at the end of the day. And everybody has the privilege of licking their wounds and coming back up on top from learning from their mistake. So I don't advocate violence. Violence leads to insurrection, seditious behavior, which leads to chaos and mass manipulation. And if nothing proved that better than 9/11, where there's over 1,200 experts saying there's no way an aluminum pop can with jet fuel could drop 2 iron buildings. I don't know what else proves that. I don't know what else proves the cognitive dissonance. 1,200 experts, ladies and gentlemen, engineers, firefighters, all telling you that 9/11 definitely was an inside job. Definitely. Without question. They knew. They knew what they were doing, why they were doing it, everything. A huge gold heist during 9/11. Nobody realizes it. Nobody talks about it. There was massive amounts of quantities of gold, silver, platinum in the bottom of the World Trade Centers, not to mention all the paperwork they were trying to hide from all their nefarious activities, ladies and gentlemen. United States CIA has funded ISIS, the Taliban. They give them weapons, yet they don't arm you. Why? Why don't they make sure you have ample ammunition, 50 cals, a couple days out on the range with a 338 Lapua? Huh? Oh, they will if you're going to go work for them. They will if you're going to be a sole dyer, which means they can send you to another country to fleece them, and they don't give a shit that you die. Your mom and dad get a flag, and they reap the rewards of the insurance policy they put on your ass for millions of dollars. Yeah, they really care about you. Let's talk about morality. My whole life I've been raised not to harm other people. My whole life I've been told that murder is wrong, yet when a suit and tie, yuppie, pedophile politician decides it's time to go to war, you don't see him sending his kids over there, do you? Nope. Nope. You don't see him suiting up because he can't fight his way out of a wet paper bag in the back of a bar. That's the truth. They're a bunch of pansy-ass pussies, and I'll just call it like I see it. I don't see one senator, one politician can fight his way through a paper bag. That's the truth. But they'll send your daughter, your son, overseas. At the age of 18, they can't drink a beer, can't buy a pack of cigarettes, but by God, they could die for a bunch of pedophiles. Sick bastards. Anyway, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. I I do appreciate the men and women that serve, by the way, because I know that their heart is in it for the right reasons. Unfortunately, they're being buffaloed, and they don't see what the United States really is. Title 28, 3215A, United States is a federal corporation waging corporate wars, killing people over minerals, earth, men, women, children, resources, human resources. That's the name of the game. The entire world has been conquered. It's taken over by military occupation. The United States is the greatest policing force of the world that is funded by Europe and the Vatican. All right. Europe handles all the financial banking things, and the Vatican handles the reaping of souls. Look forward to seeing you August 22nd, 11 a.m. Check my wall. You'll find the posting for the class. Unfortunately, Facebook is limiting the amount of people I'm able to reach. Thanks again for joining me. Land patent class. It's absolutely essential. Thanks again.